Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. Today we need to talk once again about the Retroid Pocket 6 because everything has changed once again, but thankfully it's now been finalized. So this will be the last time I come to you with Retroid Pocket 6 news, unless something absolutely ridiculous happens over the next few days, but I think hopefully now everything should be finalized, sorted out, and we should be making our way, hopefully smoothly, towards a release around January next year. So I brought a video to you on Monday about how the successor to the Retroid Pocket 5, the Retroid Pocket 6, and also the Retroid Pocket G2 will be launching soon. But after that reveal video, Retroid faced so much backlash about some of the design decisions of the Retroid Pocket 6. So much so that they had to take the Retroid Pocket 6 down from the website, and they put out 2 polls to ask what viewers would like to see. The first one of those polls related to the overall design of the Retroid Pocket 6. People weren't happy with those buttons underneath the screen, the back, home, M1 and M2 buttons, as well as the speakers as well. People thought it was a bit of an eyesore. Some people did like it. Those buttons reminded them of PSP buttons. Other people just thought it looked like ugly teeth. For me personally, I had a PSP that I really enjoyed, but it didn't really give me a PSP vibe. Those buttons under the screen don't really remind me of the buttons on my PSP, but for people who did feel that nostalgia for those buttons, they might be saddened to know that the option has now been taken away. The results of the poll were everybody preferred the more Retroid Pocket 5 looking device with a much larger screen to body ratio and no buttons or speakers under the screen. So what that means is the speakers and the back and home buttons are moving to the sides, back as they were on the Retroid Pocket 5. I've seen some people say they cover those speakers with their thumbs sometimes. For me personally, I've never done that, so I'm perfectly happy with this decision, and I think it looks a lot better. The new M1 and M2 custom buttons are also moving to the back of the device, and if we look at the back of the device now, she is thick. It looks really nice, much more comfortable than the too slender Retroid Pocket 5 in my opinion. And while that might make it a little bit more difficult to actually pocket the device, I wasn't pocketing the Retroid Pocket 5 anyway. It's kind of on the edge of what I would call pocketable. And with the all-glass front screen, it's not really something you'd want to throw in your pocket even if you can. So I am more than happy to get a slightly chunkier, beefier boy if it means improved comfort. The second poll was whether users wanted the D-pad on the top or the analog stick on the top. This is really divisive. It completely comes down to how you play your handhelds, what controllers you're used to, and what you prefer personally. I personally much prefer the analog stick being on the top. I'm used to this, having played Xbox over the years, but a lot of PlayStation users prefer the stick to be at the bottom. Some other people see these devices as D-pad centric for their old retro games, so they like to focus on using the D-pad. I prefer to use these systems for higher-end gaming and use something like the TrimUI Brick for D-pad-centric games, so I prefer the analog stick at the top. As the Retroid Pocket 5 and similar handhelds are quite small, and they don't have handles on them without a grip, which means whatever is at the top of the device is generally more comfortable, because that's where your thumbs naturally want to rest. And whichever is at the bottom of the device that you need to bend your thumb down to usually becomes less comfortable, at least in most cases for most people. So people want to choose the thing they want to use the most at the top. So if you want to use the stick more than the D-pad, you're probably going to vote for the stick up top. And if you want to use the D-pad more than the stick, you're probably going to vote for the D-pad up top. And the results were quite clear. Most people wanted the left analog stick at the top of the device, and they wanted it to look more like the Retroid Pocket 5 and less like a toothy monstrosity. As soon as the results of the polls were announced, of course, this just split people down the middle. People who got what they wanted, like me, were really happy, and people who voted for the less popular options feel like they've lost out on something they really wanted, especially considering that the losing choices were what Retroid announced to us last week. So people who saw that initial announcement, got a pre-order in, they've now had it taken away from them. But the way Retroid have handled this, I think, has been fantastic, because they have decided to not only give us the left stick on top, which was the majority vote, they've decided to let us choose. So the only thing they've really eradicated from the original announcement is the design with the buttons at the bottom, which almost nobody seemed to like anyway. Now, of course, there will be some people who love that design, and now unfortunately cannot get it anymore, but I don't think that's a big deal as much as the comfort and ergonomics of the D-pad and left stick position are. But when it comes to that left stick and D-pad positioning, which is a very personal thing, you are going to be able to choose what you like. I believe this is the first time any company's done this. Over the past couple of years, Retroid have been known for the company that has the D-pad on top, and AYN have the more powerful devices with the left stick on top. Retroid haven't always been like this though. I've seen a lot of people saying like this is Retroid's thing, D-pad on top, and that's not really true. I had a Retroid Pocket 2 a few years ago. That was my first ever handheld and the one I had before the Retroid Pocket 5, and that had the analog stick on top, as did the first ever Retroid Pocket, the Retroid Pocket 1. It was only starting from the Retroid Pocket 3 when Retroid switched around the positions and put the D-pad on top, but they did start their company with the left stick on top. In the past couple of years, they have transitioned to having the D-pad on top to kind of differentiate themselves from AYN and other companies, but as the devices get more and more powerful, and as I said earlier, because they don't have any grips built into them, generally whatever is at the top feels more comfortable for most people, it's not surprising people want a nice analog stick at the top of the device for something that's powerful enough to play lots of modern systems. But the great thing is they're not taking the D-pad option away. So if you are someone who does want a powerful device with the D-pad at the top, you've still got the choice of the Retroid Pocket G2, which just released, and you will have the choice to get a Retroid Pocket 6 like that as well if you wish. So let's now look at the options we have for the Retroid Pocket 6. We have these 5 colors available. You might notice that one of them is actually missing from the original announcement, which is the teal color. That is because almost nobody ordered that one, and they did unfortunately have to sacrifice something in order to bring us so many different variations to pick from. We have these 5 colors to choose from: the black, the silver, the SNES, a funky orange, and a purple that for some reason I found to be so beautiful, and I couldn't figure out why I liked it so much, until I realized it's basically the exact purple of my profile picture. So this I'll refer to as the Ryan Retro Purple, and that's definitely the one I'll be buying. We then have the choice of choosing whether you want the D-pad or analog stick up top, so that's another 5 options you have right there. And we then have the power choices as well. You can choose a slightly cheaper version with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, the same as the Retroid Pocket 5, Retroid Pocket G2, and most other Retroid handhelds. Or you can pay a bit more to upgrade to the 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, which I would highly recommend if you can afford it, because a lot of things on Android still clog up the internal storage. Android games like Genshin Impact, Call of Duty, Fortnite. I believe GameHub still installs all Steam games onto the internal storage as well. There's no way to put them on the SD card yet as far as I'm aware. So having more internal storage space just gives you more peace of mind. And the 12GB of RAM will also be good for high-end Switch emulation and Windows gaming, which this can now do with an 8 Gen 2 chip. So with those 5 color choices, the option to choose D-pad or analog stick on top, and 2 different choices when it comes to power, it means Retroid are now making 20 different versions of this handheld. So I don't think it's surprising they had to cut something somewhere, and unfortunately that teal color had to go. So if you had your heart set on the teal version, all the buttons at the bottom, unfortunately they're not going to be available anymore. And if you were someone who pre-ordered the previous version of the Retroid Pocket 6, Retroid are going to be reaching out to you over email in the next couple of days to ask how you'd like to proceed with that. And I did hear they are also going to keep those early bird pricings right up until January when they start shipping. So if you do want to get involved now that everything's changed, you can get that nice early price. And if you are someone who wants to do that, please consider using my affiliate link. I will greatly appreciate it. Also, when it comes to cost, I did see that apparently these will not be affected by tariffs as well. So if you're living in America, you shouldn't need to worry about tariffs. Now, of course, the tariff situation seems to change by the hour, so make sure you keep up to date with that. But Retroid seem to have been pretty good so far about getting around tariffs, and hopefully that will still stay true right up until January when they start sending them out. So now with the new redesign, let's see where this fits into the handheld market. I'll grab my laptop and let's go through some pictures I put together, and let's talk about if it's a good deal, who should buy it, and what the alternatives are. So I've put together this little comparison here of the different sizes of the various handhelds that are in the same kind of bracket. We have the Retroid Pocket 5 and the Retroid Pocket G2, which have the exact same shell. We then have the Retroid Pocket 6. This is just a rough estimation of the size. It might not be exactly perfect, because since the redesign, we don't have the exact size specification yet. We then also have the Odin 3, which is a bit bigger, and we have the Conker, which is a bit bigger again. The Retroid Pocket G2 comes in at $199, which is lovely for a less than $200 device that is exactly the same as the Retroid Pocket 5. But it's a bit hard to recommend getting the G2 when the Retroid Pocket 6 is only $10 more and has quite a lot of advantages. I showed this comparison in my previous video, but the main takeaways are that the Retroid Pocket 6 has a bigger battery, a better screen, a slightly more powerful processor, and better video output, all for just $10. So I think it's a no-brainer to go for the Retroid Pocket 6 over the Retroid Pocket G2, as long as you can wait a bit. The advantage of the Retroid Pocket G2 is that it's available right now. You can just go out and buy it, and by next week, all of the colors will be shipping out. The Retroid Pocket G2, on the other hand, is not available for 3 months yet. So if you need a handheld now, that's where the Retroid Pocket G2 could be a good option. And I put an order in for the yellow one, which I think looks beautiful. And then I'll wait a few months before I get my Retroid Pocket 6. If you're fine with waiting a few months, I would just wait for the Retroid Pocket 6. The Odin 3 is then the next step up from the Retroid Pocket 6. It has a slightly bigger screen, a much more powerful chip in the Snapdragon 8 Elite, but I've said consistently throughout all my videos on this channel, I don't recommend anyone go out and buy an Elite device. If you only want to do Windows emulation, go for it. But if you want to do things like Switch emulation, there's still a lot of broken games that just don't load at all, or there's Pokemon games where all the Pokemon are invisible. And I see a lot of people throw out all these terms like it has brute force, and it does, it's a powerful chip, but no amount of brute force is going to make those assets suddenly be visible again. And it doesn't matter how many frames you're getting if everything's invisible. So I really don't think it's a good buy right now. If you want to buy one, great, go for it. I would recommend the Retroid Pocket 6 over the Odin 3 right now, and that will only change if we get more driver support in the future. And one thing to note is that the Retroid Pocket 6 is also a lot cheaper than the Odin 3. The Odin 3 is $329, the Retroid Pocket 6 starts at $209. And for the most part, you're going to be able to play the same games. The Odin 3 is only going to be better in Windows gaming and worse in Switch. So if you'd like to play more Switch games, I'd say go for the Retroid Pocket 6. If you'd like to mostly play Windows games, I'd say go for the Odin 3. Just be aware there might be some graphical issues in certain games. And at this point, I should mention, I think the Odin 2 Mini is now dead as a product. I think the Retroid Pocket 6 has just made the Odin 2 Mini completely irrelevant. Even just for the fact it has a much better screen with the same chip for $120 less. Unless you're absolutely in love with the look of the Odin 2 Mini, I don't think there's any reason to buy it once the Retroid Pocket 6 comes out. One more option you might be interested in is the Conker Pocket Fit, which I've showed a few times on my channel, and currently right now is my favorite handheld. It has the G3 Gen 3 processor, which again is noticeably more powerful than the 8 Gen 2 that will be in the Retroid Pocket 6. It has full driver support, so you have none of the worries of the Snapdragon 8 Elite, and it has a built-in grip that so far is the most comfortable handheld I've ever used. The only downside of the Conker Pocket Fit for a lot of people is it doesn't have an OLED screen. The one I have has a slight green tint that I really hope can get fixed with a software update soon. But aside from that, it's basically a perfect device. The only other one big downside about the Conker Pocket Fit is I don't have an affiliate link for it. So if you buy one, I don't get any money. So in that case, I would recommend get all Retroid and AYN devices, please. And here is another page I just quickly threw together showing some well-known devices like the PS Vita and the Nintendo Switch Lite, so you can get a kind of rough idea how big all these devices are. If you're looking for something a little bit different, if you want 2 screens, you can get that same 8 Gen 2 chip that's in the Retroid Pocket 6 in the AYN Thor. This is available to purchase right now. It's getting great reviews from so many people, and it's definitely a good option to look into if you like a dual screen clamshell. And then if you'd like a bigger screen, if you're someone who likes a much larger screen, a larger handheld, you can look into the Odin 2 Portal. Again, I've made videos of that on my channel before. It has a gorgeous 7-inch 120Hz screen that is absolutely stunning, and it has the 8 Gen 2 chip that can run pretty much anything you'd want to. So I'll link all of these handhelds in the description below. If you'd like to buy one, please consider using my affiliate links. I have affiliate links for all of them except for the Conker Pocket Fit, but all of them are honestly just great options. Even the Snapdragon 8 Elite, as long as you know you're going to have some issues with things like Switch. So what's my final conclusion on this? Well, if you've watched my channel at all over the past year, you'll know I've said the Retroid Pocket 5 is an absolutely incredible handheld, and I only really have two problems with it. The first one is I wish the analog stick would be at the top, because I think that would be super comfortable, and the other issue is the ergonomic bumps are just kind of too small. I wish the bump went all the way from the top to the bottom, and it was just more girthy and thick. I don't really care about the pocketability because I'm not putting an all-glass display into my pocket anyway, and I don't really have anything with pockets that big. I'm always putting it into a little bag or a case or something like that, so a bit more ergonomics in the hand. I would take that over it being thin and portable any day. So the Retroid Pocket 6, with the option to have the stick on top, basically looks like my perfect handheld that I've been wishing for the past year. It even comes in a color that pretty much matches my profile picture. So for me, this is wonderful, and I'm definitely going to be ordering a Retroid Pocket 6 the second the store goes live again, and I will post in my community tab here on YouTube when it does go live. Overall, I think Retroid have done a fantastic thing here. Of course, there was the initial kerfuffle when they put the product up, suddenly took it down again. It was all a bit chaotic, but I think they've done the right thing in the end by giving the customers what they want. And I'm absolutely going to be buying one as soon as possible. What do you think about it? Please let me know in the comments below how you feel about it. I'll try to respond to as many of you as possible. And if you are going to buy one, which version are you going to buy? Analog stick top or bottom, 8GB or 12GB of RAM? Which colorway do you like the most? I would love to talk to you guys about it. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If I haven't said it already about 15 times, please check out my affiliate links in the description of the video below. That is what helps me out the most in running this channel. And yeah, happy Halloween.